So welcome to the F5 Recovery Podcast. This is One Pretty Ricky. I'm joined with my co-hosts Kirsten Huvenen and Adam Martin. We're so thankful that you are here watching our show and hope you're excited for another amazing episode of just really good recovery talk. So today's topic, we're going to be covering coping skills and how to properly work through that in your recovery. So how am I guys doing today?
Good. Yeah.
She doesn't
coping with this topic.
Yeah, I know. My immediate thought was, do you want the right answer or do you want
no, the real
what
answer.
I really do?
What do you really do?
I never know what the topics are until we get here. So, I know we send out texts ahead of time, but it's usually I was like, oh, okay.
Yep. Roll the brain just rolls.
Yeah.
But this is our 33rd, technically, continuous episode.
No kidding.
It's our third episode in the second season.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So, and literally, I give you the topics all the time, but you always just figure it out ahead of time. So it works out.
I know that you send the texts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful for it. Thank you. I use it. Thank you. I'm grateful for it.
I appreciate the reminders. I'm way too into my head usually when I'm reading the text messages, so.
Yep.
But I appreciate that it's only 4 words.
Yeah, I try to keep it very
some
short.
Some people send a paragraph. When you get that text message,
yeah.
and then at the bottom it says "read more." You're like, shit.
Yeah, I know.
Couldn't this have been a phone call?
Right.
Yeah.
Could
or at least break it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not one super long.
Can we summarize? What's the point? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know.
In conclusion, you're an asshole.
But do kids call anymore? Because I don't think.
My kids don't even text. They just Snapchat.
Yeah.
We have a group, me and my boys or whatever have a group. It's called My Spawns.
Yeah.
And they will send motivational when we wake up in the morning, be like, seize the day or whatever. And Brecken. Let me take that back. Me and Nick do.
Yeah.
And then Brecken's kind of in the background this is lame.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's
why 14, right?
He's 15.
15, okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Looking at me couldn't tell you.
So coping.
Yeah. Coping
in
skills.
recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody needs to cope, I would imagine. Shit happens to everybody.
Right.
Darby's here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. She gets uncomfortable with that. But I would imagine she doesn't identify as an addict or an alcoholic or most of the people that I probably talk to on a day-to-day basis, but they still probably have to cope with things. I mean, what is coping? It's accepting. Right? Probably at its core, it's accepting.
Yeah. After having a fit, probably is usually.
Just say having an affair.
No.
I was like, wow, you really got to cope with that.
Of all the things I've screwed up in my life, that one is so far from anything that is real to me that it would that would be so foreign.
That's
but
cool.
anyway.
Good job.
Yeah. Thanks. It's just because he's so cute.
Yeah. Oh.
Anyway.
That is a hottie. That mustache. He reminds me of Super Trooper, on the movie Super Troopers with that mustache.
Yep.
And just waiting for him to do a mustache ride.
Yeah, the rides are good. But coping, that could be a coping skill. If you think about before you start using, you're super uncomfortable and then you use and you kind of feel better or gamble or whatever oddball thing you do, but then you feel better and then you take your medicine away. You go to treatment, they take away your chemicals and now you're just super uncomfortable. And so anything that happens feels so huge.
Right. And
probably the correct thing to do is I've never thought, oh, I'm so stressed out, I'm going to start jogging.
No.
Nothing like that ever. It's I'm going to start smoking again or I'm going to self-destruct somehow. I'm going to eat this whole thing of ice cream or I'm going to find a whole bunch of boys or whatever, Coping. I mean, that's
Nobody
coping.
over here is finding guys. That's her. So I'm not out finding a bunch of guys.
But find something unhealthy
But
until you figure something out.
I was just thinking about how for us when we went to treatment and they cut out all that, we have to transfer behaviors or whatever if we wanted to continue down that addiction route. A bunch of boys or overeating or something like that. But for you, you can you can definitely continue to gamble in treatment.
Right.
You may not have money in there, but like even in my head, like I'm like, man, you just like create a bank,
Right.
or IOUs or something like that. Like you can't even play solitaire. I imagine like nothing with cards.
Yeah. Very rarely. I mean, I like Phase 10 because it's like it's like a gin rummy type game. So it's like it's just enough that I can play without being triggered. But like I don't play any like real actual like card games like the decks or anything because it's just too close. Because it's like, well,
Like slapjack, war,
nope, speed,
Go
gin
fish.
rummy, go fish. Are you triggered right now? No.
Because I don't like I'm not physically playing it because like in my mind, which whether it's rational or it's not, like all of a sudden that somehow we're gonna be playing this game and somebody's gonna be like, well, let's put money on it. It's never happened. Well, I mean, it's happened, but like it's too close to.
So
like,
is that like a relapse? If you gamble, is that a relapse?
Yeah.
Well, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, because you're doing your drug of choice.
So raffles, bingo,
Yep. I've never once done a silent auction for F5.
Huh.
I realize I'm just saying.
silent auctions.
That.
You're like
I suppose
complete
it's the winning.
abstinence.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. I suppose, I mean, if I'm like doing meth all the time and then I'm like, I'm going to have a beer.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
you
like
could.
playing Go Fish.
Right. Yep.
I
I
guess.
just think about playing Go Fish with my kids, you know, instead of like triggered to go get scratch offs.
Yeah, you're basically, with your kids, giving them free cocaine.
Yeah.
To get.
That's the comparison.
That's crazy. I guess I just never really, I mean, everyone's journey is different, right? I
Yeah.
guess, because I'm a big advocate for not even really participating in the non-alcoholic drinks, right? Like, you know that. And there's like a group of, people in recovery today that are really advocating for having that, like Heineken NA or, like the mocktails or whatever, which I think is all cool. Right. Like I'm not judging them.
Right.
I just seen a lot of people start that way.
Right.
Yeah. That's just
And
a
then
slippery
end
slope.
up just doing the real thing, because they're not seeking how would you put it? They're seeking the old life.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like
They're
they
still
wanna-
looking for connection.
They're
with
still
that
looking
life.
for something,
Yeah.
and if they're getting it from there,
Yeah.
I mean, my addicted personality is just like, man, if I get this much with this,
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
I'm done playing Go Fish. I'm going straight
For
Texas
real.
Hold'em.
Yeah. And that's the scary part, because like I don't think it will happen right away, but it might. Or the problem was like, especially towards the end, like you can do a lot of the gambling on your phone. Like now that the sports gambling like wasn't legal when I was doing it, it was very much like you get
And it's
arrested.
legal in North Dakota now.
Yep. And you can do all sorts of sports bets like FanDuel and all those ones. But it's like you can do all that from your phone.
But you can't play poker.
No.
That is so crazy to me that they
Legally?
allow. Yeah. Well, I mean, in North Dakota.
Yeah.
What?
I'm not going to go down that route on this podcast or
Right.
whatever, but
Yeah.
I just, the hypocrisy of stuff like that, just
Yeah.
because of it, when it comes down to it. And I remember when they like legalized a bunch of things that had to do with gambling, especially in the reservations. Like
Yep.
I was concerned when because I think one of the things they did was like lower the age or
Yeah.
something like that. And I was just like, holy cow, like, I got a pocket full of money. I'm 18 years old and I'm at a casino.
Yep.
Like, where's the meth?
Right.
It's like where my mind
Right.
like goes, because you just get like this intense adrenaline rush of like, gambling and the fast people and the fast money and all that stuff. And it's just like, you just want to intensify. But that's like what I'm saying is like a person in recovery, like why I don't participate with NA beer.
Right.
Like it looks like the cover
Yeah.
of it looks like it's you just playing Go Fish.
Right.
I'm really digging these analogies
Yeah.
in like bringing these two worlds together. So if I've ever
it's
like
so
made
similar.
you feel uncomfortable with like gambling or anything like that or raffles, just let me know, because
Yeah, I'll tell you.
I would hope so.
But
Yeah.
even for me, like my first year of recovery, first 4 years of recovery, I was in sales, and so I had to learn how to like cope like in that world or whatever,
Yeah.
because sales industries are filled with alcoholics.
Oh my
both
gosh, they
drinking
can
and
drink.
sober.
Holy
Right? They're
smokes.
just there's like a level of personality traits that with
Yeah.
alcoholics that they're really good at being lawyers and sales guys or something. Maybe it's bullshitters or something. But I had to learn, like, I can't change the environment to like suit me, so I have to learn how to like cope individually out in the environment, with all the drinking that happens in the sales world and stuff like that. And so my thing was like how I coped with it was, one, I had to play the tape. I start drinking, I always had to have a joke. So people, they come to the table and be like, what can I get you guys for drinks or whatever, and then they'll come to me and they're like, would you like a whatever, and I'll be like, you don't have enough. Or there's not enough alcohol in this place to serve me, and then the server usually is like, but the guys I'm with, they all know that I'm like in recovery, so they're just they laugh or whatever, because they know I'm gonna end up on Valley News Live.
Yeah, for real.
If I drink, so they're like, I've even had people like, no, like don't give them anything. But for like the people watching this that are like, if you're like social drinkers and stuff and you have alcoholics or people in your life and you're going out to have, like, you don't have to make a big deal about it.
Right.
Just treat them like everyone else, right? Like when it comes to them, when it's their turn to order a drink, you don't have to tell the server for them that they don't drink.
They don't drink, they're in recovery,
And so, but maybe another episode we'll talk about what to do when that person does drink.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole different, ball game if you care, about that person. So, but I had to learn, like, for me, I was cool with being around people that were drinking. Like, it was fine because I didn't have to do it that often.
Right.
What my thing was when they got drunk.
Yeah.
And so I just got really uncomfortable, not because I'm like, oh, this guy's a drunk, annoying guy. It's like, oh, I wish I was the drunk, annoying guy.
Yeah.
And then that just like cravings and stuff. And so I had to deal with my boss where I told him that I'll participate, I'll show up, but once people start to get drunk, I'm just gonna leave. I'm not gonna say bye. I'm just gonna, get up and like go to the bathroom, and then, and I was like, and to be honest with you, if people are drunk, they're not even gonna notice.
No.
And they'll probably be happy that the sober guy's gone.
Yeah, because you were making it weird.
Yeah. So that was like how I coped with it.
Adam's gone.
Yeah.
I don't feel guilty anymore. I know. It is the one thing where you feel like you have to explain it to somebody else. Somebody else say like, well, why don't you gamble or why don't you drink? It's just like, do I have to? Yeah. Or they try and relate like, yeah, I've been addicted to things too, like I'm addicted to going to the gym, and I just thought, have you ever?
One time I just I want someone to say I was addicted to like Elmer's glue or whatever, and I'll be like, yes, I get what I'm talking about. I mean, it's not meth,
right?
But it's a start.
It's Target
it's
brand.
the goldfish.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Have you gone to 3 different gyms because you owed the first one $40? You know what I mean? Or did you?
Yeah. Do you hide in the parking lot looking at your membership?
Yeah.
No, we're not the same. Yeah.
But I think like telling my story was like my coping skill for probably like the first, I don't know. Like once I got sober, then I wanted everyone to know I was sober.
Yeah.
Like it was just like I have to tell people. We'll go to to a board game night or whatever. I'm like, oh nope, sorry guys. Like it just. I was making it more uncomfortable. Like board games.
No.
Yeah, I would be like.
No, you can't even play board games.
I mean, I do, but like
Chutes and Ladders.
Yeah. Well, I play board games, but like.
Okay.
I just felt like
I thought you were like a complete abstinence.
No.
Just like, game of chance.
What is this?
You sinner!
You know what this leads to?
Yeah.
Oh, it's Chutes and Ladders today. It's shooting up later.
We gotta clip that. That's pretty good.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm glad you took the moment to like, clarify that you still.
Yeah. No, I still play games. I still like play cards.
Screw you, Milton Bradley.
We're gonna go to a board
ruined my
game
life.
night.
But it was like
It all
I just felt like I
starts
had to
with
like
Chutes and Ladders.
over-explain. Had to be like, oh, okay, guys, I'm not like be that person.
Yeah.
And make everyone else uncomfortable because I was still like working through that uncomfortableness. But I thought that was like I thought I was coping well. I was like, yeah, everyone needs to know. Like, even though I've already said it multiple times at various different scenarios, I felt like I kept having to say it. And it was just like, man, you're just not fun to be around. Like, you can be in recovery, you can not play cards, you can not do whatever it is that you don't want to do, but you don't have to, like...
I can't get this picture out of my head.
I can't either.
I can't get this picture out of my head. You playing, like, Chutes and Ladders with a bunch of kids sweating. I can't. Oh, I'm just sitting there giggling inside of you sweating bullets, waiting for this kid to roll the dice.
I'm like, oh, God.
Picturing him at his kid's birthday party, just like
Tell Justin, like,
white
nope,
knuckling
can't do it
it.
anymore.
this is it. I gotta go gamble.
God damn it, they're playing Twister. Just can't do it.
Oh, man.
Okay, yeah. I took
Where's
that too
Ricky?
far.
He went to the hotel.
Oh,
Oh,
don't
he's trying to
DJ
get
kids'
money.
birthday parties.
Like, game over. It's like, oh, I have one of my eyes.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's funny because it's like I just don't have the experience,
Yeah.
right? It's kind of the same with
It's extreme. Yeah, it's extreme.
you know.
But that's like, but sometimes I felt like I had to do that. Like, because if I don't, then I'm gonna just immediately just relapse. Like, oh, that's it. I'm going out. Like, I'm gonna do
Well,
it.
I think anytime I watch somebody else drink or do whatever, all I can see is that they get relief. That's what I can see. But what they're thinking is, I'm just gonna loosen up and whatever. But I watch all their problems disappear, and they get a break from their head, and they just get to be okay for a while. And here I am, just stressed out and can't explain it to everybody and misunderstood and nobody gets me and you know what I mean? And sometimes my coping skills are just like Netflix and self-pity, you know what I mean? Like that's all of the best I can do for that day. But I stayed sober and I made it to a meeting or whatever. And so sometimes it's just really unhealthy. But I think a lot of times when you come into recovery with zero coping skills, because you just spent 20 years avoiding having to deal with anything sober, it's really hard to be like, well, okay, I did this worksheet and treatment and whatever. I've never heard anybody sit at a bar stool and think, okay, what was that worksheet I did? You know what I mean? It's always, what connections did I make? Who did I connect with? Who am I gonna feel guilty seeing, having to explain that this is what happened, you know what I mean? Or feel guilty having this be a secret forever or whatever. So it's always about the connection and being with other people in the same sinking ship, like other people in recovery you can relate to, you know what I mean? Which is why even thinking of the Milton Bradley thing is so relatably funny, you know what I mean? I could just
people
just
chess.
see.
Okay. Because you
you're
would like
patient
early
with
in
us.
recovery, like we all hung out and we had like game night, and I just can't imagine if you would have. You're like,
what is this? Like, everybody's in the cars.
oh man, this whole thing makes me giddy. Just like playing the tape for you, like in my head. I'm glad you didn't show up to us in the early days. 'Cause I don't think people really understood that gambling can be an addiction or whatever. So they'll probably, like, we'll have people show up to like some retreat that we're putting on, and we'll have like poker games and stuff. And I was actually just thinking about that the other day, that like we don't really do anything to like for people who are showing up there that might secretly have the addiction, other than like we put the limit at $20.
Right.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
you can't lose
Cap
your
it.
It
rent
was
here.
just like you have a 3 beer maximum.
Right.
There's no
All
point in
right, well,
playing.
I'm gonna head over to the bar, you
Right.
know, drink the first 3 beers and then just jet.
Right.
So if you showed up at like a $20
a $20
$20 mo kind of shop, then at like this gambling thing where they can only gamble $20, would that just be enough to be like, just get the, well, screw it then, I'm gonna go big. You know,
I would laugh.
because you'd be like,
oh my
$20,
God,
this is
what
really
the heck
terrible.
You guys are doing.
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah, but if you played.
Yeah, then
Yeah,
it would
right.
start that machine, right? The same way, like for me, those mocktails do.
Yeah, so you can't even watch like movies about like
Rounders?
So, Uncut Gems, Adam Sandler's.
Yes.
I had to walk out of that movie.
I
It
bet
you
was
did,
so-
because
between
I
the
got
camera,
intense,
It was
like-
like hit the feelings and the when he was in the jewelry shop and like they're trying to get it. Like all of that was way too triggering. I had to leave. I was like, this isn't fun anymore.
that
What's
about a
that?
gambling
What's the
addict?
poker one or the with Mississippi something. You know which one I'm talking about?
Yes. Wasn't that? I'm trying to remember the actor.
It wasn't, or no, The Gambler.
Mm-hmm.
But there's another one
There's
where
another
it was
one
just
that's
like, where like at the very final moment of like he won all that money,
Right.
and then he's like, all on this one. I was like, damn, he's gonna do it, and then they don't actually show if he wins or not. So it's just like, but that feeling in the stomach, that I know, I feel it because it's the same feeling I get when I think about when I'm sitting outside the liquor store. And I'm about to go in and like buy alcohol, like that butterflies driving race cars type feeling in my gut. Yeah. I get that. Yeah. Not when I play because I only play for like $20 or here and there. Yeah. But that guy put like $1 million. Like I could just in my head I can see like this, not the stigma, but like how I can justify like that guy's a badass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He put $1 million down on one. And I was like, I'm like sweating.
I'm like, what's going on?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
So much money.
Yeah, I feel you. It's totally, 100%.
Yeah.
But it's worth the risk.
Oh,
that's in the head.
Yeah.
It's
I
just
get
like
it with
drinking
drug.
or doing
I get it. I get
it's
it.
just like I'm gonna feel
always worth
relief. I'm gonna be, but it's probably compounded with gambling because there's actually like I don't get drunk or get high thinking I'm gonna be successful.
Right.
Like successful in life. I'm beyond that point now. Right. But I know I'm going to feel that way while I'm using. Yes. And that's part of the reason why I want to use. God, gambling is like that plus like these grandiose ideas that you're going to be somebody and win and you're going to be right and you're going to show all them. And
Well, I know.
And the people I gambled for to punish them or like when I do get this money and be like, seize, like just all of those thoughts of like, how that was going to work out and like my life is going to be so much
how do you get out of that? Like how do you not gamble?
It's tough.
Yeah.
Even now. Because it'll pop up out of nowhere. It'll be like my nephew came over and he was like, oh, he had found a I think like a D&D, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Like that special die they have, he found one.
20. It's a 20.
Yeah, and it was just like he was just playing with it, and just I was like, oh man.
He was just sitting there, just like rolling his die.
Yeah, just like constantly. Because again, it's like a really, really cool. I mean, it's a cool looking die, but like even just the like clack of it hitting the like hardwood floor. It was like I used to play craps doing this. Like, oh my god, and it was just like, man. I'm just like, yeah, can we play something else?
It's like
buddy?
the drip of cocaine in the back of your throat.
Yeah, it's just like,
yeah,
and just I was like, yeah, let's just. Do
I
something
can't
else.
imagine that being so crazy to just all of a sudden be like, just triggered by a die.
Just by a die. And so and the hard part is like I talked with my sister-in-law, like she I haven't shared with the kids about my past, my addiction, other things that she just would rather not. So I'm like, okay, that's totally cool. So I can't tell him, like, hey man, that's triggering, or hey, that's making me feel uncomfortable when you're doing that.
How old was he?
He's 7.
Yeah,
7 or 8.
It'd be great if you did that.
But she was like, no, I don't.
Hey man, I'm triggered.
It was like, just choke him up. I'm like, no, I don't. But it was just like, I just snatch it and put it in my pocket, or like swallow it. Like I would do something extreme, like
just swallow it
and just he'd be like,
8-ball of meth.
He'd be like, okay, but like I can't explain that to him. So then it's like, all right, how do I like navigate and how do I like help get out of the situation with him where I can't tell him why?
Yeah.
So I just distract him. Like, oh, let's play. He's a farmer's kid, so like, oh, let's play with our tractors, and let's play with your.
But it
combines.
should be like
right,
I shouldn't go to a party and then everybody has to stop drinking because I'm there. Like everybody should be able to live their life. I have to figure myself out, and a lot of times I'm like, well, I can't go there, Or people will say I can't go to my family functions because they're never sober, and just like, well, take somebody that's sober with you. Then you have that other person, and then you're okay.
Then they get
you're
drunk.
really
You're
okay.
like,
Yeah, I know. Oh, you're
I made
useless.
the sacrifice. I sacrificed him.
But yeah, to figure out a
why'd you
coping
bring
skill.
that sober guy to this party? Because I didn't want to drink. Somebody was going on.
Yeah, he's gonna do it.
I needed a ride home. But to figure out your own internal coping skill to not have to tell a 7-year-old they can't play Chutes and Ladders or whatever.
I think it gets easier when you get older too, because I'm just not desiring going to parties. And,
Yeah.
You know, I'm 41 years old or whatever. But when I was like trying to get sober when I was 20,
Yeah.
like my son being sober at 24 or whatever, like I just could, like, I couldn't imagine trying to do recovery at his age with like the amount of like disruptive friends that you have in there. I mean, like when he would have people that were coming from out of town that were his friends and like stay the night and they'd go out and get drunk and then like come back to the house or whatever. I couldn't do that. You know.
But when you get sober when you're young, it's almost like you're looked at like, well, you didn't even, how could you even know? You didn't even use long enough to know, you know? But you just know. You know the minute you start drinking or whatever, like, I do this different than anybody around me. There is no shut off. And I think to get there early is amazing. But like you said, it's really hard to not want to be in your 20s and just be dumb and go do dumb things and laugh about getting tanked at this, that, or whatever, you know? But you can have a blast sober. And I don't feel like I've missed out on anything, even though in the moment I'm thinking, God, I wish I could just be fun right now. But I guess it's not fun the way I do it, you know?
Well, your friends are going to ask questions regardless. It's either going to be a, why don't you drink? Or they're going to follow up a few days later, like, why are you in jail? Like, it's like it's going to happen. They're not going to understand. So, like, trying to get family or friends to understand to build, you know, as a form of, like, helping you cope, it's just not going to. So it's, you know, they will never understand.
Yeah, no. And it sounds extreme to say, like, if I drink, I'm going to jail. And it starts slow. It's insidious, right? Like, I could probably have a glass of wine one night, and then the next night, you know, whatever. Eventually, though, it will. I probably can't. I can't. But I want to be able to do it. But I can avoid jail for a little bit, probably.
Maybe. Yeah.
If that's.
In my final like year of drinking or whatever, I didn't go to jail or get arrested or anything. I was too scared to leave my house. So I just got drunk and stayed home because I knew if I left, I was going to start breaking into cars or garages or going to the bar and trying to get free drinks and stealing wallets or whatever. Like, I just had no regard for anyone other than fueling my body with alcohol. Like, I didn't see people as people.
Yeah.
I saw them as, like, I wouldn't even say I saw them as anything other than it was a means to the next drink. You know, like, I wasn't sitting there thinking they're a target. It was like, I saw the wallet sticking out and I saw money and I knew that would help me get drunk or drunk.
Yeah, it wasn't personal.
Yeah.
Which is hard to explain the next day.
It's never personal. It never was ever.
No, you're shutting off a beast. You're feeding an animal that is just like, it's so hard to explain. You just can't shut it off.
I put more holes in drywall sober on trying to get alcohol than I did ever while I was drinking. But I stole way more cars while I was drinking because I've never done that sober. So it's like, you know, that's my two wolves, if you will, right? Like it's not like, you know, do the right thing or do the wrong thing or whatever. It was like if I'm drinking, these are the wrong things I'm going to do. If I'm sober and not in recovery, these are the wrong things that I'm going to do. And typically when you don't have that release or that relief, it just builds up and turns to violence.
Yeah, that's what early sobriety feels like.
I never was violent when I was drinking.
Yeah.
It was usually when I was trying to drink or I was detoxing from alcohol or something like that. And so, I mean, looking back, that was the lesser of two evils for me. I would rather get drunk and steal a car than not be drunk and get violent.
Yeah.
That's what I look like without recovery. Restless, irritable, and discontent.
Yeah. Yeah, that's sober. That is sober. That's so hard to explain that, like, when I get sober, everything in me is telling me, do not go to a meeting. Do not give any positive energy to this. It's like this, it's an illness. It tells you don't have it. It tells you over and over again, I'm different this doesn't apply to me. Yeah, that's nice that your little meetings help you, blah, 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 you know what I mean? But it's how it feels, and then, but I'm different, you know what I mean? It's just a,
It's insidious.
Yeah.
Use the right word.
yeah.
Well, I want to thank, of course, F5 Project and
He's
the
been
Ridge.
waiting for 20 minutes.
I know. I was like, eventually, I was going to tie it in so many different things. So I was like, all right, speaking of two wolves, and I was like, I had so many. I was like, all right, you know what? As soon as they just stop talking, I'm just going to.
She's dropping pearls over here, and you're just like, anyway.
I just want to thank the sponsors.
Do you think?
Dude, yeah.
Yeah, well, we want to thank F5 Project and the Ridge Recovery and Treatment Center for being amazing sponsors of this awesome podcast and video podcast. So we're just super grateful. So if you would like to continue to support us, and just, please down below, just subscribe, follow us online, all the different things. It's all really, really grateful that we're able to do that to support us. So, of course, this is One Pretty Ricky, Kirsten Hubin and Adam Martin. We're just really glad that we're able to do this. And today's topic is coping skills. And so kind of a question, we've talked about groups and meetings and different things, but
Oh, you're not ending the show?
No.
I was ready to be done. I'm like, okay, I gotta
we
be.
just transition into the next episode? Okay.
All right, good. Just keep us on there.
Yep. And so I guess the question is where have you found some of your best coping skills from? Has it been from meetings? Has it been from your sponsor? Has it been from just a random stranger? Some blog you read online? Where do your best coping skills come from?
Man, I would like to have some really therapeutic answer, because I try and give that advice, but my best coping skills when life is heavy is hanging out with my girlfriends and just bitching about whatever, incessant, you know what I mean? Just venting it all out and having them laugh at me or whatever, and it's such a release. But it is that connection. It goes back to that connection, because there's nothing really that works as well as getting out of my own head. I have to go either help somebody else, do something that is with someone else, and that's why it is really hard. And it's so easy to say, well, I have social anxiety and I'm an introvert or whatever, you know what I mean? I use that as an excuse instead of just okay, it's good to know that about yourself. I'm not super comfortable in here, blah blah blah, but I have to do it or I'm gonna die, Right. So I have to be willing to be uncomfortable. And it's never worked to be I'm going to journal, because that's just focusing on myself some more. Or I'm going to, talk to a therapist. Well, that's still obsessing about myself. Or all of these things are good things. But the thing that really works every time is just hanging out with my girlfriends, usually. You know what I mean?
Yeah, community.
Yeah.
It's the one thing that programs or organizations have that are in common that focus on recovery is that build a community. There's many different pathways, but the major ones I see are very focused on building out a group. For me, it's similar. I need people. Okay. I need to be able to talk. I need to be able to process. I need to be able to play the tape, right? Play it through. But it's more than just coping with that moment. There's a lot of stuff up front that I need to do, right? Because you'll hear people that the relapse precedes the first drink, right? It's the relapse is happening before, if I'm angry at people and I'm not dealing with it, if I'm resentful, if I'm fearful, if I'm got a ton of anxiety, if I'm depressed, if I'm not dealing with any of those things, it's like that speaker I heard a while back. I just have this spring in my gut that's getting tighter and tighter and tighter to the point where it just does this, just whatever a spring does when it's over,
release,
it just breaks and just snaps, and then my behavior just evolves or devolves, or whatever the word would be, into drinking and doing meth or whatever. And so there's a lot that I need to do. So coping's just one aspect of it, as much as that there's a lot of processing that I need to do on the front end. Right. Daily maintenance of stuff, weekly, monthly, So And if I don't do those things, then there's not a cope out there that's going to replace the dope. Yes. That's a shout out to Scott College.
That's good.
Dad joke.
That's good.
Either cope
like
or
that.
do dope.
Cut that from the program.
Yeah. Oh, Scott, he's so funny.
You ever seen those shirts where it's just like, a hope dealer rather than a dope dealer? I used to be a dope dealer, but now I'm a hope dealer. I'm like, that's a good shirt. I'll let you.
Yeah, that
It's
one.
fluffy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But those relationships, like you were talking about, you have to put the work in before. It's oftentimes I'll hear like, well, I got a sponsor and I'll call them if I want a drink. You won't. You never will, because you didn't build that relationship. And it's the things you don't see, like I'm frustrated with my significant other. I have a resentment, all those things. Those are the things that lead to a relapse. And so that's why it's important to build those connections slowly. Start chatting with somebody about the weather or some boring mundane thing, but you have to build that relationship, and you have to, like, if you get a sponsor or a mentor or whatever you do, talk to them on a regular basis about nothing, because then when the shit hits the fan, you will actually call them, and that reminds me of a time I left Jack home. I have 3 boys. I left Jack home to watch the youngest 2, and I knew because I had to go to a meeting, and I had to go to like a work meeting or something, and he was probably 12 and they were, I don't know, 10 and 8, but anyway, I could tell when I left that they were just in a mood. They were gonna like burn the place down. I could just feel it, but I had to go, so I left. And if you know my oldest son Jack, he's very literal, very literal. I told him once to go to the mailbox, and he came back, and I was like, where's the mail? And he's like, well, you didn't say get the mail. So anyway, that's how literal he is. But he called me like 5 times during this meeting, and finally I'm like, Jack, has the shit hit the fan? And he goes, we don't even have a fan. And I was like, oh my God. Like, oh, that's a good metaphor for life. I have the fan, yeah. That's so funny. But anyway, so that is when you'd use your sponsor, when you bought the fan for the shit, yeah. Anyway.
Well, I like that you guys like had said people, because like for me, I need like, not like anti-people, but I just need like space from people, because I use people as like just to be able to like just get away. Like I want to get out of my thoughts, but I never want to like actually do the work. And so like when I sit in silence and I'm like processing through my thoughts and like really listening, like, man, you're like, that's negative. And so then, but if I'm around people all the time, I can focus on, I love to focus on other people's problems and everything else that they have going on. So if I was one of your girlfriends and you're having a shit talking session, I would never contribute anything. I would just be like feeding the fan of like everyone else's things, because I'm like, I don't want to talk about my own problems or why I'm here, whatever it is. So then I know like, okay, I need to take a break. I need to like step away. I need to just like separate, just like give me like, I'm like, Joseph, just give me 2 minutes. Like I need to step away from the baby. And sometimes like some meetings have been like, I remember one in particular was like really, really intense, and the person, and it's hard because like that person's sharing their heart and they're just like pouring it out and doing a lot of that. But like I was just so triggered, and I was like, I just got up and like went to the bathroom, and so I was like, I just need some space, because I'm like, it's just too much to like handle.
So you just take a breath and know that, because that's good for me also. But I take that to an extreme. Like I'm alone for a month then, and I don't need to talk to anybody. You know what I mean? So, but you just take your time, and then you can re-engage.
Because I know I will always come back.
Yeah.
I will always like re-engage. But that's my default is to re-engage. My default isn't to like retreat, if that's the right word. Like my default isn't to like take space. Like I fight myself. I'm like, I know I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
But maybe, it's not that bad. Or I'll just make excuses. I'll just do all these things all internally. Sit it out, stick it out, and then be like miserable. And then now I'm miserable, and now I'm bringing that miserableness home. Or then I'm calling my sponsor like, oh, I was in this meeting, or I was in whatever, and then now I'm frustrated. He's like, why didn't you just leave? I was like, want.
You
And
can
that's
do
always
that?
that's always usually the like solution to most of the things. I just put myself in I'm in situations that may start off really well, but then eventually it'll get bad, and then
Yeah.
instead of just fixing it by just getting up and leaving, like you would leave from
Like
a
a
party.
child's board game night.
Yep, I would just be
I
like,
am having a hard time not having everything go through a kid's birthday party right now.
it's like, oh,
Like he's in
just
the
here at
bathroom
Chuck E.
while the
Cheese,
clown's
just-
out there doing the balloons. Anyway.
just popping the balloons. You know, just like, but that's my like. I'll just sit in it and then just be terrible, just be a terrible human being,
Yeah.
just because I didn't just get up and leave. That's usually like, just take a break, come back, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And if you need another break, then leave again. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I have to do this, and then my sponsor's like, why didn't you leave a second time? Because I left once, and I was like, well, I got up, came back, it was still terrible. He's like, why didn't you leave again? I was like, well, I just did it the first time. I thought I was supposed to just fix it. And he was like, no, like you keep doing that until like either the situation resolved or you just leave and then you just permanently leave and you just don't come back. And I'm like, well, that's dumb. And then I don't like obviously the answer. So anything my sponsor says that I don't like is dumb.
Yeah, initially.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, that's dumb. Like just leave a second time? What? I was like,
Are you insinuating I might be wrong?
yeah, but that's how I have to learn how to like
Yeah.
cope. Is like, you know, maybe leave, second, third, fourth, or just leave and
Yeah.
don't come back.
And then
Yeah.
like toxic situations.
Yeah.
This way.
Mm-hmm.
Like me being in a trap house.
Right,
Like, why are you still there?
right.
Do you get there often sober?
No. But I'm trying to like correlate between me
I
being in
know.
a trap house and him being at
Kid's
a child's
birthday party.
party.
Oh, Ricky.
Like I walk into the trap house and they're like, "You're back." You know,
Come sit
you
down.
go to a child's birthday party and you got this little 7-year-old kid like, "Hello, Ricky."
We're playing Deal or No Deal. Like, no, I do
Oh my
not.
God! Yes.
Get out of here.
Oh.
Man, this is gonna be a topic forever.
So game shows? Can you watch game shows?
No,
No.
definitely not.
They
Bob
just don't
Barker.
interest you.
No.
No, yeah.
Well, Bob Barker died, so you don't have to worry about him. But
Yeah. And it was crazy. So like,
so Bob Barker was like a pimp. Like he was,
Yeah,
he was like a drug dealing pimp
I
to you.
would come back, please, sir. Can I
Ricky
have
is
some
so
more?
patient with us
I
to let
know.
us understand
I
this in a way
appreciate
I
it.
can
You, like,
understand
let
it.
us run with our sense of humor.
Yeah.
On this.
Like I feel like that's anyway. Yep.
Well, I was gonna say like, so I actually went on Prices Right. My dad's birthday.
You did?
Out of
Yeah.
here.
It was like one of the coolest, weirdest experiences that I immediately called my sponsor afterwards. I was like,
In sobriety?
yeah. Because my dad had never been to a game show, grew up in, or like lived in California, I don't know, 30 years.
How do you get into a game show?
You know, well,
You just show up.
well, I made a few phone calls and we were able to get tickets and then we got like.
He
front row
knows
seats.
people.
Yeah. But I was like, my dad had never been, so I was like, oh, so I knew who to call. And they were like, yeah.
Oh, and you had been? You'd been on game shows prior to that?
Prior to being sober, yeah.
Which ones? Like on TV?
Hmm? Well, I never like, I was in the crowd.
Oh, you never
Yeah,
made it
like
to
the on
roll.
camera.
But you were on the game show?
No, we never got called up,
Oh,
but
okay.
like Drew Carey, like between the like sets was like talking to my dad, which was like kind of cool.
Crazy.
And so you got to like chat up with my dad. But like again, we're like, if this is the camera's right here, if like that's where the stage is, like we're just sitting below, stage is right here, and like and everything's happening, people are bidding and they're doing the showcases, and I'm like you guys are joking about sweating, but I was like
Hey,
literally, I
you
was
see,
like,
Yeah, I
you're,
know.
rubbing your legs.
Yeah,
yeah,
right
because
now,
it was
like,
and it was super uncomfortable because I was
Yeah.
like, this was a mistake, and it was one of those like I should have just left, but I'm like, I'm on the front row, like if the camera pans, like you would see me. I'm like, well, then I won't get my spotlight. So then I'm like
Yeah,
just
I know.
justifying, I was like, oh, I can't leave because you know I could be on TV, and it was just one of the most awesome, uncomfortable experiences. Like my dad had a blast and Jelsa had a blast, which was great.
And
but
you
I was
made
like,
it.
I hope I don't get. What if I get called up? So every time, so then you have to like do these little like things, like activities
Man.
between.
You
get
go to
called
the
up.
trap house. You went to the cartel's house.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
was
like you walked in there and it was just like drugs
yeah.
We're
everywhere?
We're at home watching the show and we hear from in the audience, bet it all.
Like they just cut to me and I'm like, and I'm just caught.
What the are you doing? $1?
Don't you know how this game works? Yeah.
All he has to do is bet 2.
Yeah, it was just, and then like we left, and I was like, oh, okay, this was a mistake. But I still have the little placard. I don't know, I probably should get rid of it, but I still have my little name tag.
Yeah, keep it. You made it.
Yep, I was like, I
You
got
did
through
it.
I didn't gamble, so I was like, all right, this
Yeah.
works. Didn't get called up, thank God. Because this probably would have been, I don't know if it would have been on this podcast. I don't know how I would have, if I had gotten called up on stage to
Man,
like.
no way. There's no way. It would have been like me going to Russia.
Yeah. All of the vodka.
Because of vodka, or, you know, like
The machine.
the machine. It's just like, welcome to Russia. Here's your vodka. It's like $1, please.
Or just sitting at a table with all these lines. You're like, well,
That happened to me one
I don't
time.
like cocaine. I do like the smell, though.
I had roommates that were sober, and I left for the weekend. I came back, and there was like vodka everywhere. And I like walked into it, and I was like, I have a choice here. I have a choice, and it's depleting as I'm sitting here thinking.
Right.
And
You were living
I
with
just
us
left.
sober guys?
Huh?
You were living with sober
Yeah.
guys?
It was
Oh,
like
no.
I was almost a year sober,
Oh, shoot.
and it was Dean.
Aww.
Dean relapsed or
yeah.
whatever before he died, but he I mean, he got on the other end of it, and he
Yeah.
got back into recovery. But it was just such a not expecting it. Left for the weekend for like a men's retreat, came back, and there's vodka bottles and cigarettes, and like I'm like, it looked like the trap real quick, and I was just like, and just for a moment I was like, what if?
Would anybody know, really?
Oh, they would know. I don't have that luxury.
Yep.
Or,
Yeah.
like,
I know, but
people-
that's the thought you
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Mine's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, my life sucks just as much as it sucked before,
Right.
but now I have to feel it. Like, that's usually where my head goes. Or even more recently, where it's like everything's different, everything's awesome, but it doesn't feel awesome.
Right.
Because your mind never forgets what it felt like to be wasted.
Right.
It's the only time in my life I've ever laid on the ground spinning trees and thinking, I wish I could feel like this all the time.
Right.
I've never thought that at a graduation or any kind of ceremony, or
Yeah.
there's literally no other aspect of my life where I've said, I wish I could feel like this all the time, other than the idea of getting high every day.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So it just sits there.
Yeah.
So when you start feeling like shit, you're depressed, or you're filled with anxiety or whatever, like all of a sudden the brain is just like chilling, doing its thing, and then it's just like, oh, anxiety, depression, just, compounding it.
Yep.
And then it's like, all right, remember this moment?
Yeah, this could
Right.
be, you could be happy all the time.
And then there's like dopamine that happens when you think about
Yep.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Euphoric
that's what
recall.
I'm really
Yeah.
addicted to, is that dopamine.
Yeah.
That's why everything sucks after you're addicted to meth. Because it's like, you get dopamine from having sex, eating chocolate, all that stuff. But like on the scale of like 1 to 1,000, it's like 30.
Yeah.
You do meth, it's like 5,000.
Right.
So that's what, when people are like, they get that new guy high,
Yeah.
they're probably still coming off the dope,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like for that first month or whatever, it's still like flushing out of your system.
Yeah.
And then everything's new, and you're just like, oh, that girl's paying attention to me. I'm gonna buy this new car or
Yeah.
whatever, and it's like a new guy high.
I got all
right,
this
without-
hope.
And then all of a sudden you just crash
Right.
after like 30, 60 days, and life is real.
Right when you get out of treatment.
Right when you get
Yeah.
out of treatment or
Oh, yeah.
something, and then you got all these responsibilities, and you feel like crap, and nobody's paying attention to you anymore. You're not treated special,
Yeah.
and the gray of the world
Yeah.
happens again. Your mind is ready,
Yeah.
and it
The
shows up, and it's
responsibilities
like, do you
there.
remember when you were spinning in the trees,
Right.
Yeah.
and you're thinking, I wish I could feel like this all the time.
And it just has.
You can.
Yeah, I know. Ew. But at what cost,
Yeah.
And it makes it really hard. But to connect with people while you have that 30 days of like hope, you have to do that, because that day is coming when you just bottom out.
Yeah.
And
That's real.
and no matter what you succeed, how big you get, or the problems you have, like your problems are not why you're unhappy. Ever. No matter your problem. It's just your perception, because you could be sitting, like I've sat in worse spots with a better attitude, at different times in life. And like once you attain it all, like you do the I'll be happy when I get married, or when I have kids, or when I own that business, or when I whatever. And then you get there and you're like, well, this is a lot like yesterday. you know? So it just makes it really hard to have hope for, well, what's coming is going to be amazing, you know? So it all is internal. About recovery is about changing that perception and connecting to people, because no matter what's happening, you know, you can have that reaction. Like, either, even on good days, I'm like, this could be better. You know, this could feel really awesome. I should celebrate, you know?
Like when people say like my worst day sober is better than my best day using, I'm like, bullshit.
Right.
I always thought that was weird.
That is so, I've never, anytime people say, like, I get what they're saying. They're like, I'm grateful for my life.
Yeah.
Right? I can see the trees and the birds and everything's amazing. It's like, yeah, you're 30 days sober. Wait till the bottom out.
Yeah.
Right? And I want to be there when it happens to help, like, navigate through it.
Right.
But, like, have I ever thought that my worst day sober is better than my best day using, because 5,000, you know, dopamine level is hard to beat.
Yeah.
Right? Which tells me that it's never actually been consequences, problems, or you know, blessings or whatever that really define my recovery, but it's the way that I feel. And I've heard arguments that it's a feelings disease, like, you know, where, like, when you see someone with like autism, right, you can see the spectrum to it. When or I mean, not see the spectrum, but they have definitions for, you know, the different aspects of the spectrum. He's fully functional, or he's, you know, non-functional, or whatever. That we don't have that with alcoholism or addiction. It's just like an addict's an addict, or an alcoholic's an alcoholic. But there's such a wide spectrum to it, like such a wide spectrum. You know, there's the raging alcoholic that they can't just like, they can't be around alcohol. They get like, it's a whole different journey. There's people that I've met that, like, you know, use meth like it was just like they were a vacuum. And they got clean from meth and they don't do it anymore, but they can still have drinks. Right? Like, there's a wide spectrum to it.
Yeah.
And so I don't even know why I was like going down this route, but it really perturbs me when we have people defining what recovery is.
Yeah.
Like, I think we talked about this on the last episode. Like, there's just so many definitions to it, and even people who believe that there's many pathways really don't. They don't, because once they're like, I believe in many pathways that I agree with. It's the same as politics or religion or whatever, right? There's always the line. Like, you have your federal line, your county line, your city line. Like, I don't need a passport to go across city or county lines or whatever. Like, that doesn't really violate doctrine, but I don't believe it. Or that's a cool pathway to recovery, you know, but I wouldn't do that. But there's always a line. And I mean, if we're going to say that we believe in many pathways, then we have to. You have to be
Support
okay
that.
with a person who doesn't do meth anymore, but now they drink. And even if they're not doing a good job of it, none of my business.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
Like, if he includes me into it, and as long as he's not affecting me, like when we were talking about the person that used to live with you, like, I should not treat him any different.
No.
I should treat him just like he's a member of my home group. You know, like many pathways. We have no monopoly on recovery, religion, politics, or whatever. None of my business.
I think that's I think why F5 Project and the Ridge have been so successful, is because of all the treatments and therapies and other things. No one said that. No one ever said that, hey, there's a different, there could be different ways.
You want to know how I know we were right? When we took people in that other people kicked out.
Yeah.
And they're sober today. Like, I'm telling you that there's like if you're going down a street of treatment centers, like if all the treatment centers in America were on one street, I'm telling you that F5 and in the Ridge are that crappy looking house on the very last street, right? Because we're just so loud and so like whatever, we like peer support and fellowship are more important to us than making sure someone gets a diagnosis.
Yeah. Yes.
You know,
Amen. That's a good
like,
thing.
and you'll see all the people like that crazy college party. That's the last house on the block. But that first house you go to looks really shiny, really nice. And then you go in there and you're like, I don't do meth anymore, but I drink every once in a while. They're like, get out!
I know. I never understood that.
It's culty.
I never understood
Treatment centers and recovery organizations can get just as culty as church.
For sure.
Or churches, like some churches, not all of them. You know, I'm not blanketing entire Christianity. I'm just saying that I've been to some bad churches, and it usually is led by a dictator. So.
Yeah. Well, speaking of good organizations, I want to thank F5 Project and the Ridge for sponsoring this podcast. We're just super grateful. Yeah, this is officially this is the end. Yeah. So as we close, do you guys have any last things you want to share? And do
you know that quote that I always say that I learned from Tom or whatever, and
not how much
Roosevelt said it.
Yep.
So I got a new spin on it.
Oh, okay.
So you know how I normally say that the reason F5 is so great, or like the momentum, is because no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yep.
My add-on to it is, which is good because I don't know shit. So that's my new slogan. No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care, which is good because I don't know shit.
But I'm a nice person.
Well,
Yep.
well, thank you all for watching. Please tune in next week for our next episode, and we'll be back again. Have a great day in recovery.